Welcome, everybody, to our first Unplugged Residencies preview from the theater at the 14th Street Y and wherever else our amazing artists are right now. My name is Ronit Mushkatlit, and I'm the Director of Arts and Culture and Laba, a global laboratory for Jewish culture at the 14th Street Y. This last January, the 14th Street Y Theater turned on its lights again and reopened the theater doors to our community of artists. Thanks to the generous support of foundations and donors from our community, we managed to raise $25,000 to support 5 new projects created by our artists. When we were reimagining the season, we understood that the most important thing was to support financially the artists and to give them space and time and place, if they chose to come in, to create their work. Really a space to contemplate deeply, to work on their craft, but also to generate some hope and vision for what the future could bring. And we were thinking together, this would be a great opportunity for you to see a few excerpts of this work and then join us in a conversation afterwards to hear about this moment, about how it has changed the way we work, and to really learn more about the pieces that they're working on. You can support more artist residencies if you go to our donation page on the 14th Street Y to light the way for our artists. And of course, there will be a slide explaining exactly how you can do that. So I'm very excited, as I'm sure you can sense, to launch this first online event. And I look forward to sharing the artist journeys with you. With no further ado, we will move into our theater with Richard Saudek, our Laba artist, presenting Dead and Alive.
It's Richard, and I'm lucky enough to be here in this space rehearsing my clown show. It's called Dead and Alive. It was created when I thought of melding two ideas. One is a classic circus clown act, one that I learned very young when I was in the circus at 10 years old. It's called Dead and Alive. One of the clowns dies, the other one stays alive, and the one who is dead is manipulated and handled by the live one in funny ways that are kind of macabre, but never really touch on quite enough macabre, I think. So I melded that idea with the Jewish ritual of Shemira, the observance of death and burial, in which somebody stands guard over the recently departed and in part makes sure that the spirit doesn't get up and run amok, which is, I think, a very clown-like idea. So what we're doing is making what would have been a live performance into kind of a video. And Fer Gleason, who's incredible, is on the Zoom call. She's the director of the video. And we're in here shooting as if it's a live performance, but with a little more angles, a little more interesting than just, theater for film. So we're in here. We're going to have a live musician as well. And it's really all about the fact that death can happen at any time without the... So that's basically the idea. That's the eulogy part that we've been working on today.
We're going to move to Yehuda and Sarah. I'm sure Sarah has thoughts about the juggling. And I don't know how you felt, but I just wanted to sit in the first row in that space with them. So I'm going to pass it on to Sarah and Yehuda. Name game.
Great. Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Richard. What did E.E. Cummings say? The only two things you can count on are death and circus, something like that. Totally appreciate it. I do happen to have props here, so I'm going to continue the theme and tell you that Yehuda and I worked on a collaboration this summer and this winter. It's called The Name Game, and it started when we both realized that we had attended each other's really important events in each other's lives. That many decades ago, Yehuda came to my wedding, and many decades ago, I was a witness at his name-changing ceremony. We decided to make a show about investigating our own names. And this led us down paths of Jewish ancestry and queer community and identity and juggling and dance and lots of other things. I'm going to pass it on to Yehuda to introduce the clip.
Thank you, Sarah. So this clip, so in the show, I go through the 10 names that I've been called during my life. And the name I was called for the most part of my life was Larry. At this point in the show, I'm attending Sarah's wedding, and she addresses me by Larry, and then we go on from there. So we're ready? It's 1993, and I am sitting in the kitchen of the Gay and Lesbian Synagogue in San Francisco, which is located on a small hill in the Castro district of San Francisco. And I'm just sitting there at the table, studying Torah with a small group of queer folk. And it's after midnight, and it's Shavuos, that's a holiday. And that's when the rabbi introduces me to her. And now I'd like to introduce her to you. You can't actually see her, but you might be able to catch a small glimpse of her in the fragrance of a rose, in a dark garden somewhere, in the middle of the night, in a country you've never been to before. I'm sorry, I hate to get all mystical on you, but the thing is, you can only hear her with your skin. Listen. She has a name. It was always there. I just never noticed it before. Shekhinah. Who is Shekhinah? Well, Shekhinah isn't who. Shekhinah is what? What? Well, I would say that right now in 2021, in the middle of my second plague, that Shekhinah, the what of Shekhinah is secret of the possible. Secret of the possible. She makes everything possible. And on this night in 1993, sitting around the table studying Torah at the Gay and Lesbian Synagogue is when I learned that God has a feminine name. And that little thing makes it possible for me to be fully queer and fully Jew in this body at the same time. And then she disappears. And I search for her. And in the searching for her, I find my name, Yehuda. That Hebrew school teacher, Dan, told me that Yehuda is connected to lion, and that's true. And lion is label, my grandfather's name, my label. But Yehuda, the name literally means to praise. To praise what? Exactly. Secret of the possible. And then a year later from that night, I am stepping down into the mikvah. That is the ritual bath. And I go down, submerging myself into the water 10 times. And I come up. And the very last time, the 10th time that I come up, there's a witness there to call me by my name.
Yehuda.
Suppose they gave HYMIE WILHELM a show and nobody came.
Hi. So yeah, background. My name is Willie Zabar. I'm a character and stand-up comedian. And I work with a cousin of mine named HYMIE WILHELM. He's related to me on my mother's side. He's a musician. He's from Germany. And I haven't seen him in person in quite some time for reasons unrelated to the pandemic. But we got this opportunity to do something for LABA. And I connected him with a good friend of mine, Henry Butler. And I wasn't there for the actual filming of what you're about to see, but I received in the mail a mini DVD from HYMIE, and I didn't have a way to play this. And I mean, like in the mail, there was no envelope; it just came straight up in the mail, and it was more than an hour long. And I don't know, I've made it pretty clear there was supposed to be 5 minutes, so I edited it down as best that I could. But I can't stand behind what you're about to see. So I guess we should watch it now.
I'm HYMIE WILHELM. This is Hank. Watch us. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows I've still got on my toes. Don't look in the camera. Don't look in the camera. Or I will destroy you like Sodom and Gomorrah. Don't call me a liar. I will set you on fire. Then I will put you out. Cause I am not a sauerkraut. Stop changing it! I think I broke it. Yeah, probably. Why are you looking at me? This is a saw, and it is the most important tool in a carpenter's toolbox. Because without it, the wood would still be part of the trade. Oh, I need wires and electricity to make music. No, you need a saw and a heart.
Hey, don't throw any coins up, please. You know, this is a beautiful chimp.
You learn a lot when you dig in a trench, but one thing you don't learn is how to speak French. Welcome back. Stop laughing! You can't laugh! Hank, it ruins the tape! I taught him everything he knows. Why are you looking at me? I got a text. Don't text in the... It wasn't important. It's the 14th Street YMHA. They're gonna want it to be Jewish. He's a goy, but I've got enough Jew for both of us. You don't shush me. No, the only man who ever shushed me lives in Bushwick. And he was Michael Jackson. And he's still alive. Keep going in Jewish. I used to work on the Lower East Side, and my boss would come and I'd always hide. He would lock the doors so that I could not run away. He would do this at the very beginning of every day, so I could not escape, I could not get out. No one could help me if I made a shout. I could not get out cause it was a sweatshop. I could maybe leap over the gate with a hop, but I couldn't cause my knees are not so good from the war. I tried one time, but I don't want to try anymore.
I'm a British subject, I am. I'll not sing for you or any other hiney.
Hey Jude, don't go and make it bad. Hey Jude, take a sad song and make it better. Hey Jude, remember to let her into your heart.
Where's the good one?
Later, we'll hear more about the context of the whole piece. And last but not least, open your camera, lady.
Hello.
Liba Weinberg with VAYNBERG? How do you say it? How do you say it?
Both are correct. The old country pronunciation is Weinberg. So either which or.
Okay, go Weinberg. Go Weinberg with Weinberg.
Exactly.
Give us a little intro before we see your video.
I was very lucky to work on LABA in 2019, 2020, and I worked on my piece Queen's Quest, which I did virtually with Tikkun with the 14th Street Y, which is an amazing artistic home. I'm very grateful. And then a lot of it is the urging of Laura and Ronit, who are my artistic little spirit angels, I guess. But I've been working a lot on adapting some of my autobiographical work into stuff that is more explicitly autobiographical, basically. And this is a bit about my father. And because of the pandemic, I've sort of realized I've been I lived with him for like 2 or 3 months this summer, which was the last time I'd done that. I was 18 years old. And he sort of like became my partner, and I have all this footage of him and all these recordings of him talking about World War II, because he was born in 1935. So this is the beginning of the sort of video, sort of oral history exploration I'm doing of that. He's also a very funny man. He looks like, I think, Mel Brooks meets Pablo Picasso, but you will see in a moment.
The point is, что ты не можешь вырастить детей и делать то, что ты сам не делаешь, basically. Like, даже если ты физически это делаешь, это не считается, если ты не делаешь это с души, you know?
Да, ну, конечно, особенно религия. Это
Да.
надо быть в этом.
Да, конечно.
Тебя, с днем рождения тебя, с днем рождения, папа, с днем рождения тебя. Ча-ча-ча. Мы тебя любим.
Я вас люблю всех.
Под Зоей Окей, подарки, иди открывай.
Молодые ребята, они все время нас стравливали, чтобы мы поборолись. И мы начинали бороться на сцене. А там они свистели, улюлюкали, знаешь. Им же все равно, лишь бы радость была.
Морковный торт. Да, нет, что ты думаешь?
Нет.
Тыквенный хлеб.
Нет.
Ты знаешь, что теперь делают pumpkin spice кофе? Делают кофе с тыквой. Что ты думаешь?
No. Медсестры, молоденькие девушки, наверное, лет 17-17. И вот она идет, а это молодые ребята, по 19-20 лет.
С ума сходит, да?
Они с ума сходят. Значит, один взял ее и ущипнул.
Ага.
Она его по руке. А он говорит: ты что? Смотри, а там на стене висит большой плакат. Все для фронта, все для победы.
Правильно сделала.
Да?
Да.
Ну, все для фронта.
Ты берешь.
Традиционная игра в русских ресторанах. Ты берешь кусочек хлеба, сминаешь его и кладешь на конец вилки. Направляешь туда, куда ты хочешь. И нажимаешь.
Let's see what happens next.
Right. So it's a good transition. Thank you, everybody. And we'll invite into small gallery view all the artists to talk a little bit more, because we got a taste. And you can see that our tastes are very varied, and every project is a different place and a different time of development, and even the themes are all different. But maybe we can go backwards, like starting from Liba and the order backwards, and just describe a little bit what you think you're going to work on in the residency and what the outcome will be, at least from this period. And Yehuda and Sarah, we can also talk about that a little bit in our frame, just so we get an overview, you know, where you are and where you're going, and maybe what we can imagine, so that people will come back and see it. Liba, you have a skeptical look.
Yeah. Well, I just realized that if we go backwards, I'm first, which was always my fear. Whenever it was alphabetical order, I was safe. But frequently people like to go, we'll do it backwards. And I'd be like, I think that one of the things I'm really interested in working on is sort of playing with the line between the documentary style of the way we have everything on our phones now, while at the same time kind of crafting something that is a little bit more like a short film. And also I'm interested in the relevance. I did a play that I toured for a little while that was called The Silk Myth, which was about a Holocaust survivor. And what was interesting about it was all about recording his experience then, and sort of putting it in its digital library place, which in a way I think is like a form of like forgetting. And I think that part of what I love about like the access I have to someone like my father is that he has a lot of thoughts on, you know, pumpkin spice lattes, and all sorts of things, that I think are relevant and interesting, and most importantly, funny. So that's sort of what I'm going to be working on. And I'm working on also getting like a small film crew to North Carolina so that we can actually shoot some of this stuff properly. And yeah, that's sort of where I imagine that going. And the stories also, the stories he has about World War II, the big one was he talks about how his mother would sew bras and envelopes for the nurses and the soldiers, because all resources are put towards the war. Absolutely nothing was put towards anything else. Yeah.
And you're coming in May, right?
Yes,
Wow.
May.
Virtually.
That's right.
Right. Reba will be there. Willie, plug in the piece that we saw into your residency, which is coming up after Richard, who's in the theater now. And your mic is on mute.
All right, how about now? Hear me now? Cool. So, what's that?
Murphy's Law, the most serious mic.
How about now? Is now working?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I kind of have the strong belief that at least for the type of performance that I do, the same things don't tend to work for what a live performance as an online performance. And I've been experimenting with live streaming a lot over the last year or so since quarantine started. And so I'm basically using the access to the theater to create something that, you know, it was very different from what I would do live, because the original plan last April was to do a kind of one-man show with HYMIE. And rather than retooling that in some way or making a kind of ersatz version for the online space, I wanted to do a completely different approach that played more with, you know, the improv side of things, but also the ability to edit. What you saw was a very, very rough kind of, you know, first approach to, you know, HYMIE playing with another person, because it's generally a solo act, and this is one of the first times I've really messed with the format. So I'm really excited to get in that space and play around with some things. And one thing obviously that I discovered in there is I really like the kind of VHS, you know, intentionally poorly edited aesthetic. And I want to start playing with a little bit more, you know, messed up old timey like video technologies like VHS. Big fan of that. And one of my goals is I'd really like it to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, because what you saw was none of those. That was really just a scatter plot of things. So I'm looking forward to making it into a real thing.
And when can we see you? You have a date actually on the calendar.
Do I? I'm actually not currently familiar with what that date is, but it's going to be great whenever it is. It's going to be so good. Mark your calendars for whenever that is.
March 26th.
March 26th is going to be the best day of all of our lives if you tune in. Otherwise, you know, something bad might happen. It's a threat.
Well, for sure, because the night after you only get to eat matzah, so the 26th is pretty good.
Absolutely.
Sarah and Yehuda, I mean, we did a bit of work. We still have some more work. You guys want to share?
Yeah, Ronit's our director. And I'm sharing that. So Sarah and I have been working, I think, since June, cross country, which has been really an experience. She's in Oakland, sorry, and I'm in New York City. And it's been a lot of work. And then we were filming, and we're hoping to show this at the Gay and Lesbian LGBT Festival in Baltimore.
June 8th, online, but yes,
Online.
Jewish Queer Festival.
Yeah, so we have some work we want to do. Sarah, would you like to?
Well, I would say that You know, it's kind of what William was just talking about, really, which is like, I think a lot of our work is understanding this new form, and that it's kind of understanding as live theater artists or theater artists who are used to performing live, what this form is and how we can connect to audience and what's recorded and what's live. And I feel like that's our work now, in a way, like is finding out the best way to present the piece.
Yeah, I think it takes us to the next question, which we'll start with Richard and Dana and Fer, because I had a super emotional moment after I saw the first two, because I realized we're not in the same space. And it really hit me more than before. I don't know why. Maybe because we're all congregated together, and I don't know. All of a sudden, I understood how far we actually are from each other, and how Richard and Dana and Estelle and Farah are lucky to be in the theater with Chrissy right now. But that experience, and how has this moment changed? So maybe talk about, because this is also Laba's second stage work, like the first iteration and what it means now working on it together, and where you hope it will end up, which is very different than where we started, actually. Yes. You people in the theater.
Well, it took us a while to decide to start working on it again because of a lot of obvious reasons, but also a lot of we just had to get past a number of months in a world of pandemic to convince ourselves that it was worth getting up and doing a clown show. Because I you know, it's worth it, you know, it's worth it if a doctor goes into work these days. I don't know if it's worth it if a clown goes into work these days. Theoretically, there are a lot of arguments for exactly doing that. It's hard to be the person who does that. And so it took a while to become that clown, which sounds, another bit of the process in restarting was how do we want to present it, and we decided on trying to make the what's going to be a filmed version of this stand on its own as its own thing, rather than trying to capture a live performance in film. So we're storyboarding, and we're working with a lot of different angles and ideas that you would never be able to do in live performance. A lot of like cinema magic, which Fer is leading the charge on in our case, and that's the way we kind of came to start revamping it, and our new thoughts about the new look of it, I think.
Right, and even more, no, or the same, clown work without a live audience.
Yeah, it's really difficult to imagine being a clown without an audience, but it's also interesting. And
well, but also, hey, I'm Dana. In our show, what we did today, or what we were trying to do today, maybe didn't hit on this, but in our show, we are persons that have been performing for like much of our lives together. We're like these circus artists that are, you know, maybe a family or a performance family. And so there's some scenes where we were, even in the live show, trying to pretend as if we were performing for an arena.
Yeah.
And so some of those things are gonna hopefully work a lot better than us pretending that there's an arena on a stage with people in an audience.
Yeah, hopefully the joke will be a little more devastating.
Yeah, and like understood.
Sarah, do you want to jump in and kind of talk about reimagining live performance and filming it and the world?
I mean, there's a real eeriness to filming. I mean, this isn't so much a theater show at this point as it is a film that kind of takes place in an empty theater. And the fact that it is empty feels like very important to the show in a lot of ways. And a lot of these ideas of like alive and deadness feel like emphasized in a major way by the fact that there is no one else in the theater.
Willie, do you want to speak to that? Because that's even in the title of your piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big observation at the beginning of quarantine. I felt like I tried this, and a lot of people were like, "We'll just do things exactly like we did in a live thing, and it'll be the same," and it can't be. And so, I really like the whole kind of playing with the delusion of oh, what if we just pretend it's this good, because it kind of plays to I think we've all been in a show where the audience was almost empty and we had to still bring it like it was a full house, or so yeah, I think there's a lot of fun opportunities with this program to really actually have the resources of actual theater, but figure out what does it mean to actually be performing here when there's nobody. The whole space is centered on this experience of having an audience and a performer, and when there's no audience, you kind of have total control. You have too much control. You get to make too many decisions, because suddenly, you can move in 360 degrees, you can have special effects, and it can be a little overwhelming, but it's definitely also a little exciting.
Right. I feel we've had a lot of discussions with Yehuda and Sarah when we were filming of trying to adhere to it being live and understanding the possibility of pre-recorded, or even expanding the possibility and adding animation or drawing on top, and where's the limit actually, and when do you stop, or how do you decide? And I don't know if we've decided yet fully what the final outcome will be of that. Unclear. Liba, how do you feel about not being in a theater this last year?
I mean, honestly, I hate it. I wish we were all, together. But I do think it is exactly what we've all sort of been discussing, that there's no point in pretending that we are in a theater. It's just it's a false positive. It's unsatisfying, which is why I think there's so much room for exploring the intersection between film and theater, basically, because then it sort of lets us play in things that are artistically adjacent to what we're working on, anyway. And it is interesting to have space also, I will also be using the theater in some capacity, because a lot of what Zoom has done is that it has made everything, my father, speaking of the thing, calls it theater in windows, in the little windows. And he's like, is it going to be in the little windows again? I don't want to watch it if it's in the little windows. And he's right. But it does actually allow us now to kind of trick it a little bit, to use the space, and to play with the things that theater artists have always contributed to, like the film, television, with a more directorial eye, basically. But it is a difference, because in theater, it's so much more about the body, right? Actors don't need transitions because they have bodies. But with film, and anything that's visual like this, we've all had to step back and be directors a little bit too, of our little windows.
Right. I always say we have to try and break the Zoom square or the Zoom wall.
One thing I thought was interesting was in William's piece was I thought he really captured what I call the danger of improvisation, you don't know what's going to happen next in a recorded piece. And I've never seen that, And one thing I miss about performing live is having to deal with the, who's in the house that day, and, and the interaction between, the audience energy and the performer energy, and also the mistakes, and playing with the mistakes and seeing where they go. And then when we're filming stuff, it's just I didn't like that. Let's do it again. And that seems so counter to our work as theater artists. But I thought that was hilarious how William actually captured this energy of Do they even know what they're doing? Like, what will happen next here? That was great.
We did not know what we were doing, and we did not know what would happen.
I know.
But as a director, I have to say I enjoyed the fact that I could say, turn your head 20 degrees, stop. I mean, the ability to actually control the frame and what everybody sees is so much greater that there's some kind of perverse pleasure in that maybe, which I have to investigate with myself about. Laura, director of Laba New York, Sarah, Laba East Bay, director of Laba East Bay. If you want to jump in, or if anybody has a question, also don't be shy. I wanted to ask a little bit of what it means for you to be part of this community. A, because I feel like you are all my extended family, and B, because I want it to grow and for us to be able to do more residencies. And nobody knows what the upcoming year will look like. But I feel like if we can fill the theater with artists creating work, or the gallery, or support other works, for example, we're doing some visual works in museums around North America, then we have fulfilled the essence of who we are supposed to be and what we are supposed to provide to this world. So I want to hear a little bit from you what it means for you in this moment to be able to create work and have space and time and some support for doing that.
I'll jump in because this is a very present question for me. I'm filling out a big grant application. And it's like, okay, Jewish mysticism, are they going to go for this? You know, so there's like this, it's not a Jewish organization, right? So when I make work with Laba, I don't need, that's not even a consideration. It's just, I know that there's a home for it, and I know that it will be understood. And I know it can be controversial, or whatever it wants to be, or vaguely Jewish even, or not even Jewish at all, but it's just, it's very free to make work in this community and to feel the response. So I love it. I'm very grateful to Laba.
Laba, I like being part of it. I think it's cool. I feel very, I feel like I learn a lot because I'm not, you know, I've never been like a theater person. Like, I don't know what most people are talking about most of the time. Because I've always been more of a solo performer in more of the comedy world. And it's been very cool seeing the many, many different like ways people use a theater or use time that's booked at a theater. I also got to work at the Y for a while before the you know, pandemic happened, and it's just like, I don't know. I feel very, it feels like a cool, like a very, it's like a different, it's like a field trip. You know what I mean? It's like a very different experience. It's not a normal day at school. I really enjoy it.
I wasn't meaning to milk compliments, but a little bit about what it means to have a deadline, or somebody who tells you, yeah, make work. It's like, but you know, you have a deadline. And if it's important right now to create those spaces.
Yeah, it's very important. It's so important. I mean, like before 2020, it was important, and now it's just, I mean, you know, the sense of a deadline used to be already kind of a difficult concept for me, and now it's like such, you know, time just doesn't mean much at all. And to have a deadline is to you know, give yourself a reason to get up and like create things, and remember that's important to remember what it feels like to like tap into that side of your brain, because it takes a lot of will to do it by yourself, for me. And this way, I have to, and that's, yeah, I have to, and that's important.
I'm
It's very
happy. people in the audience, in the Zoom audience, if you have questions, also you don't need to write them in the chat. You can also speak. I mean, I think we're close enough, you know, that we can open it up for our last 7-ish minutes before Shabbat comes in the East Coast.
I have a question. Hey, folks. This is Jake here. There's so much improvisation, like in some of the pieces here, like Richard and Dana, your act. Like, I was wondering, like, do you like script a clown performance? I've never had an experience like, let's compose an epitaph, like live epitaph, and like what does that look like? Anyway, I'm just curious, and other acts too, like Liba, your piece, like there's just live talking essentially that becomes part of the act. So just curious about the improvisation piece and all of this.
How'd you do it?
How do it? What are we talking now? The like poetic club work is a piece I've been doing for years, and we just had Richard lay on the floor. But we've been writing. I think it's been really interesting to write. We've been kind of trying to write some things backwards, and then talking with Fur. I don't know if you want to jump in here or not, but like how to make. We've been having a really exhilarating time translating like what was a work in progress theater piece to a clown for film, psychedelic clown for film situation. And then, but I'm super jealous of watching Williams, Eric Andre breakdown scenario on VHS. But what would something that we wrote that's been feeling like let's talk about, Richard loves classic clown acts, like traditional clown acts. And I do too, but I tend to disguise mine more as like being avant-garde. I'm like a pretentious avant-garde juggler, but I am just trying to do classic juggling, but make it feel like it's relevant for now, which is the same thing Richard does, but
a little more pop.
A little bit more, a little more pop.
I'm
at the punk show, and Richard's
I'm at pop punk.
Yeah, you're at the pop punk show. He's Blink 182,
yeah.
and I'm someone you've never heard of. But we're basically just doing the same thing. We're doing the same old. Basically, there's the old dead and alive thing where Richard's dead right now, and I'm like, I do this, and then I go that, and it's like, It's a slapstick routine where you abuse a dead body, and it's hilarious because the dead body doesn't have feelings. So we're doing it as if it's, we're doing it as if it was an hour long and you have a lot of feelings.
We want you to feel for the dead body, but we also want you to laugh in the same way you've always laughed at the gag, and then hopefully we would like you to look at yourself, feel bad about yourself laughing, and then maybe laugh at that, and it can go on forever. Hopefully, that's the idea.
And you also have a musician doing a live, kind of maybe conducting, maybe accompanying, maybe improvising the story of your life on stage.
Yeah,
the process is really. Oh, go ahead, Richard.
Well, we have somebody fulfilling the role of creating music and Foley and sound accompaniment, much in the same way you may have seen a band leader or the guy on a talk show leading a band. But so you recognize the format, but the way that we're dealing with her is hopefully a little different than you've seen in the past.
And then she's also going to be a clown in the film.
Yeah. Sorry, her.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, it's a strange process because we have to kind of work forwards and backwards, and because it's film, you kind of like script out certain shots and certain stuff really, really closely. And so like we're gonna have some of the score written in advance, and some of it's gonna be done after the fact, and it doesn't feel live at all. But you still want to capture those like moments of clown and like play and like liveness and things being funny. So it's a lot of like coming up with ideas for things that we can play with later.
We have 5 minutes until we end. So if you want more information about all the presentations and everything, I feel like it's a little family here, so I don't need to do the whole spiel, but you know, Facebook, Laba Journal, mailing lists, you'll see when it's all coming up. Richard and Dana and Fur and Estella are in residency right now, and then Willie, and after that, Liba, and then we're gonna have a big tikkun, and then it's the Queer Jewish Art Festival, which we're collaborating on with the JCC of Baltimore, and in between many more things. So come back. It's been really, really moving to spend this time together. Thank you for joining. Laura, Sarah, Jake, Dawn, all, Mindy, thank you for coming. Shabbat Shalom. Right, this is the time. And if you want to support the work, make it and go to the page. Okay, love you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.